People of Burkina Faso, sons and daughters of our beloved homeland, guardians of a proud history, and carriers of a destiny no power can extinguish. Today I stand before you with a message that is not merely political, not merely national, but deeply human, profoundly moral, and woven into the very fabric of our sovereignty. My voice today is not the voice of a single leader. It is the voice of every mother who has ever prayed for dignity for her children. It is the voice of every father who has ever sweated under the sun to build a better life. It is the voice of every young Burkinabe who dreams of a future free of fear, free of intimidation, free of the invisible chains that have shackled our continent for generations. And above all, it is the voice of a people whose time has finally come. Yet in this fictional world, this alternate universe, where ancient powers still try to script the fate of African nations, where institutions created far away continue to believe they own our tomorrow, there arrives a letter written not to us, not to our government, not to the African Union, not to any court of fairness or justice. No. This letter, written by a character known in this fictional world as Kristalina Georgieva, a figure representing the leadership of an imaginary version of the International Monetary Fund, is addressed to another figure in this fictional universe, a president named Donald Trump, of a fictional United States. In this imaginary letter, the fictional IMF claims that Burkina Faso owes $1 billion. That I, your president in this fictional scenario, have refused to repay a loan that in this constructed storyline was never taken, never discussed, never agreed upon, never even conceived by our nation. And in this alternate universe drama they attempted to write. They go further. They request that the fictional Interpol of this imaginary setting be mobilized. That international pressure be applied. That a sovereign African leader in a fictional world be threatened with arrest. My people, this is where their fiction ends. This is where our truth begins. I stand before you today not to defend myself, for in this fictional story, my innocence is not in question. What is in question is the very soul of our sovereignty, and so today, I will not whisper. I will not speak timidly. I will raise my voice as high as the hills of our ancestors, as vast as the plains on which our cattle once roamed free, as unwavering as the spirit that has kept our people alive through famine, drought, colonization, and trials that would have broken lesser nations. Because this speech is not about debt. It is about dignity. This speech is not about 1 billion fictional dollars. It is about centuries of real exploitation in the fictional timeline of this story. This speech is not about one leader being threatened. It is about an entire continent that refuses to kneel in a fictional universe, where old powers still imagine we can be intimidated. The imaginary IMF said we owe something. To that I replied, show us the loan. They could not. They said we signed an agreement. I said, show us the signature. They could not. They said we received funds. I said, show us the transfer. They could not. Instead, what they produced was a letter. A threat. A shadow. A whisper meant to frighten nations that once trembled at the sound of their names. But Burkina Faso will not tremble again. Not in this fictional universe, not in any universe. Because a new generation has risen. A generation that questions everything. A generation that bows to no one. A generation that understands the world and refuses to be manipulated by archaic institutions. The weapon of fear. For too long in this fictional world, Africa has been ruled not by chains, but by fear. And fear is a masterful weapon. Fear makes the strong look weak. Fear makes the rich look poor. Fear makes the brave look timid. Fear makes sovereign nations behave like tenants in their own homes. But what happens when fear no longer works? What happens when Africa says, enough? What happens when Burkina Faso says, no more? What happens when the youth, the farmers, the soldiers, the women, and the elders of this imaginary Burkina Faso stand with one voice and declare, we will not be threatened? The answer is simple. The old world order begins to crumble. It trembles. It panics. It seeks desperate measures. Letters. Threats. Requests for fictional Interpol intervention. Attempts at character assassination. Not because they fear my leadership, but because they fear your awakening. Because once a people awaken, no power on earth, fictional or real, can ever put them back to sleep. This is my message to the fictional IMF. IMF Coit. Like this that IMF, IMF Coit, of Coit, Alpoit, and as a Golster point of view. The imaginary boardrooms where fictional elites discuss how nations should behave. To those who believe paperwork is more powerful than people. To those who believe signatures matter more than sovereignty. To those who believe threats can replace truth. Hear my words, and Burkina Faso does not owe you. Burkina Faso will not kneel. Burkina Faso will not be intimidated. Burkina Faso will not surrender its dignity. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Produce your evidence. Present your documents. Reveal your truth if it exists. But do not expect us to tremble before imaginary accusations. We learned long ago that fear is a choice, and we have chosen courage. I am conveying the message to the fictional president, Donald Trump, to the character representing the president of the fictional United States in this story. You have received a letter bearing accusations, but accusations are not evidence. Claims are not truth. Threats are not justice. Burkina Faso seeks partnership, not conflict. Dialogue, not hostility. Respect, not submission. We will engage with the world, but as equals, never as subjects. In this fictional universe, if your administration chooses diplomacy, we welcome it. But if any nation chooses intimidation, they will soon discover that Africa, a rising Africa, an alert Africa, a courageous Africa, is not to be bullied. To the youth of Burkina Faso, you are the beating heart of this nation, the thunder that shakes the earth when you march, the fire that burns in every dream, the hope that blooms even in the harshest seasons. You are the reason I stand fearless. You are the reason I speak loudly. You are the reason I reject any threat, fictional or real. Because when I look at you, I see the Africa our ancestors dreamed of. An Africa that is educated. An Africa that is confident. An Africa that refuses to be psychologically colonized. In this fictional world, they fear your awakening. Because a conscious African youth is more dangerous to oppressive systems than any army. Never doubt your power. Never doubt your worth. Never doubt that your destiny is yours to shape, not theirs to control. I am talking to the mothers of Burkina Faso. Your resilience is the quiet force that has held this nation together. Your prayers have carried us through storms. Your tears have watered the soil of our struggle. Your courage has inspired generations. This fictional death narrative is not only an attack on the state, it is an attack on you. An attempt to weaken the economic future of your children. An attempt to pressure us into agreements that serve foreign interests, not African families. But hear me clearly. As long as I breathe, no fictional debt will steal the bread from your table. Our soldiers who guard our borders, you who stand in the heat and the cold, you who march through danger so that others may live in peace, your courage is unmatched, and your loyalty is priceless. In this fictional world, the threats directed at us are not merely financial. They are part of a larger strategy, to weaken our defenses, to undermine our unity, to divide our institutions. But you stand firm, unbroken, unbending, unshaken. Know this. No foreign institution, real or fictional, will ever command our army. No threat will ever determine our security decisions. We are sovereign. We are in control. We defend our land on our terms. Our elders, their wisdom guides us. You survived darker times than this. You kept our traditions alive. You preserved the identity that others tried to erase. When you look upon this situation, you understand immediately. This fictional debt is not about money. It is about control. It is about rewriting the future of a nation that finally declared itself free. But you also know this. No one can enslave a people who know who they are. This crisis is not about 1 billion fictional dollars. This is about testing our resolve, testing our unity, testing our awakening. The fictional IMF believes it can intimidate us with papers and threats. But Burkina Faso in this alternate universe has risen far beyond the reach of fear. Let them send letters. Let them send warnings. Let them send shadows disguised as storms. We shall not bend. We shall not retreat. We shall not surrender. Not because we are stubborn, but because we are sovereign. Look beyond our borders. Across this fictional Africa, a wind is blowing. A wind of awakening. A wind of liberation. A wind of realization. For centuries in the story of this alternate universe, Africa was told, "You owe us. You need us. You cannot survive without us." But now Africa replies, "We owe you nothing. We need nothing from you. And we can survive. We can rise. We can lead without your permission." It is this new Africa that frightens them. Not fictional leaders like myself. Not fictional presidents or fictional armies. It is you, and the people who refuse to kneel, who terrify them. I am talking to those who threaten us. You speak the language of intimidation. We speak the language of truth. You operate through pressure. We operate through principle. You depend on fear. We depend on unity. You believe Africa is still asleep. We are wide awake, so listen well, and it was clear. Some people still think they can threaten us. We will not repay what we never borrowed. We will not sign what we never agreed to. We will not kneel to threats delivered through letters. If justice is what you seek, present your facts. If fairness is what you desire, open your books. If partnership is what you want, show respect. But if intimidation is the path you choose, know that you are dealing with a new Africa. An Africa that bows only to God. An Africa that stands tall, even when alone. An Africa that chooses truth over comfort, sovereignty over submission, and dignity over all else. My beloved Burkina Faso, my family, my nation, this is our moment in this fictional universe. Not a moment of crisis, but a moment of awakening. The imaginary IMF may send 1,000 letters. They may invent 1,000 debts. They may request 1,000 arrests. But none of that will matter. Because we have something far stronger. A people who refuse to kneel. A nation that refuses to fear. A youth that refuses to be manipulated. And a future that refuses to be stolen. In this fictional story, they attempted to intimidate us. Instead, they awakened us. They united us. They strengthened us. And so I say to you, stand tall. Walk proudly. Hold your head high. For you are Burkinabe, descendants of warriors, children of resilience, leaders of tomorrow. And to those who watch us, those who doubt us, those who threaten us, those who wait for us to fall, I say, wait forever, because Burkina Faso will rise. Africa will rise. And no fictional debt, no fictional letter, no fictional threat will stop the destiny of a people who have chosen freedom. Thank you.